This is My Life with a Gardener by Bob Hicok. The screen door firecrackers closed. I find her at the sundry drawer, prowling for twine. I'm nothing, she sees. There's a tornado in her hair. Her face is streaked, with dirt like markings applied before the rituals of drums. I've watched her shadow break free and tend the next row of corn. I understand this eagerness as fully as I can speak for the ocean. I say water is behind everything, a blue dictator. Say waves are obsessed with their one word, but have no idea what that word is. Her hands enter soil like needles, making the promise of a dress from cloth. In December she begins, smelling lilacs. By February, she sees the holes peppers burn through snow. I see her. She's the last green thing I need. When finally she's pushed inside by the rude hands of dusk, I set down my life for her skin, taught all day how to smell, like the sun and the 100 directions of her hair and eyes that look through me to flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. Yeah, so this poem is tough to read. Not gonna lie, I've had a couple of White Claws, so it's tougher to read when you're a little tipsy. Tougher to read anything when you're a little tipsy, but the feelings are there. So this poem, for me, what gets me on this poem, there's two things. There's two big things, or two little things, two lines. There's the first line. Like, I fell in love with this poem when I read the first line. I didn't even have to read the rest of it because I knew it was going to be fucking amazing. The first line, the screen door firecrackers closed. Like, talk about imagery and like calling up an experience that you've had. Like that word, firecrackers closed, that's like, dude nailed it, right? The screen door firecrackers closed. You can hear it. And it's almost like the firecrackers going up, the thing is going up, like whoosh, whoosh, whack! And then it's like, that's a perfect description. The screen door firecrackers closed. Whoosh, whack! That's what it sounds like. So like from that moment, I was like, I'm in love with this poem. And then he describes everything, so I'm going to kind of bounce all over the place on this poem. So he kind of describes everything about her and about, I'm just going to jump to the other thing. The next line is, I set down my life for her skin. Okay, so like the very first moment I read that, I was like, I set down my life. It's like, I thought what he was saying was I lay down my life. Like I would give my life for her skin, but that's not what he's saying. I don't think. The way I'm reading it is that he's saying, I set down my life for her skin, taught all day how to smell like the sun, and the 100 directions of her hair and eyes that look through me to flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. He's saying he was doing something, right? He was working on something. He was reading something. He was like maybe he brought home some work or was working on something, a poem, maybe because he's a poet. I don't know what else he does. I don't know Bob Hicok from Albert Einstein. I don't know Albert Einstein either. But what he's saying is like, she could come in and he might not know it. And that smell that, you know how like somebody smells after they've been in the sun all day, like it's like they smell like sweat, but it's like different. I don't know. Taught it's that taught all day how to smell like the sun. They smell like the sun, right? They smell like, not like, they don't have body odor, but it's like a sweetness almost. So he wouldn't know that she came in. Maybe he might not know that she came in, but he would smell that, and like the sensation, the smell, the experience of her being, of her existence, would overwhelm him to the point of not being able to do anything else. But it's not that he's not saying it in a way of like lovey-dovey, ultra romantic kind of thing. He's saying it in a way of just like the pure experience, the pure substance is like a sensory overload almost, or something that he doesn't want to miss out on. It's not even overload. It's just something that it's like something that he wants to experience and indulge in that moment, because it doesn't happen all the time. That combination of things. And if it does happen all the time, it's a pretty special thing for him to recognize the value of it in his life, that he will do that every single time she comes in. I set down my life. I set down what I was doing just for this moment, to exist in a moment. Like that's what the big thing nowadays, or whatever, whenever. Like, just be in the moment, man. It's like, fuck you, I am in the moment. How can I not be in the moment? Well, that's pretty easy. Just think about all the things that you have to worry about during a day. Like, that's how you could not be in the moment. But having a trigger to recognize when you want to, having a trigger to recognize the moments you want to be in. Because you shouldn't be in every moment. Like, some moments suck. But that moment doesn't. Taught all day how to smell like the sun, and the 100 directions of her hair and eyes that look through me to flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. Like, that is beautiful. And eyes that look through me to flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. I don't really know what that means to him. Because it means, he had an experience, I would guess, that he is thinking of when he writes that, right? Because that's pretty specific. But it's also, it's to speak with the moon, open their mouths to speak with the moon. He doesn't even understand it. Because her eyes, he knows that she's not looking at him in this moment, right? She's looking to the flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. But that means something to him. But he knows that it means something different to her. But he doesn't know what it means to her. He can't understand what it means to her. He only knows that it's important to her. And that's okay with him. That's what he loves her for. He loves her for her passion to the flowers that only open their mouths to speak with the moon. And he says that earlier. I understand this eagerness as fully as I can speak for the ocean. I say water is behind everything. A blue dictator say waves are obsessed with their one word. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Maybe. I don't know. They're obsessed with their one word, but have no idea what that word is. They know they have something to do, and they can't help but do it, but they're not aware of what it is they do. Maybe that's the gardener for him, in some way. That she has a drive to do this thing. She doesn't understand it herself, but he can appreciate it in the same way that he can appreciate the ocean. and the waves that crash on the shore for no other reason than they must. And then I love the war paint analogy. There's a tornado in her hair. Her face is streaked with dirt like markings applied before the rituals of drums. She's going into battle, right? When she goes out there to do her gardening. Dirt like markings applied before the rituals of drums. I've watched her shadow break free and tend the next row of corn. I see her. She's the last green thing I need. When finally she's pushed inside by the rude hands of dusk, because she would be out there endlessly if she could. Like, who would think to say that the hands of dusk, first of all, the hands of dusk, like, that's lovely. But the rude hands, pushed inside by the rude hands, pushed inside by the rude hands of dusk. I watched her shadow break free and tend the next row of corn. So, like, she's out there until the sun sets, right? Well, we know that later on, but when he's making this comparison, I've watched her shadow break free. So maybe her shadow is close to her during, like, when the sun is high, and her shadow breaks free when the sun gets low in the sky, and it breaks free because it goes way far out. And her shadow, while she tends the row of corn, they're rows, right? So, like, every row is going to be the same, and while she tends a row of corn, her shadow is like doing what she is doing, right? Because it's her shadow. It's the exact same thing, just like, let's see, this is, but it's happening in the next row. And so it's almost like if she could be there, she would. I've watched her shadow break free and tend the next row of corn. I understand this eagerness as fully as I can speak for the ocean. Prowling, that's the other thing. Like, the words he uses to describe things, the metaphors that he uses are beautiful. I find her at the sundry drawer, prowling for twine. She's a predator, right? She's on the prowl. When she finds the twine, she's going to go back out and do what she needs to do. And he's nothing she sees. And he revels in that. I'm nothing she sees. I find her at the sundry drawer prowling for twine. I'm nothing she sees. There's a tornado in her hair. Her face is streaked with dirt like markings applied before the rituals of drums. Watched her shadow break free and tend the next row of corn. I understand this eagerness as fully as I can speak for the ocean. Maybe he's a sailor. Like, maybe he has a special connection to the ocean. He says water is behind everything, a blue dictator. Say waves are obsessed with their one word. So this might be this back and forth. Like, maybe this is actually a conversation, or not a conversation. That's what I'm getting at. That they've had where, like, she's talking about something totally in her own world, and then he's talking about something totally in his own world. And even though from the outside it would sound like they're talking to each other, it's just that they're so passionate about the thing that they're doing that they're so passionate about it, and the way that they talk about it is close enough that an outsider would be led to believe they're actually having a conversation or talking to each other because their words sound the same or mean the same things, but really they're talking about two different things. They're not even talking to each other. They're talking to themselves near each other. Like that would be a beautiful thing to experience that, or to know that you have that, or that happens, like, because you're not even having it with somebody. It's just happening around you. That's total speculation. Like, that's really extrapolating out of that. Her hands enter the soil like needles, making the promise of a dress from cloth. Yeah. Just love the imagery in this poem. And the thought of those two things. Those two experiences are like a light switch for me that opens the whole poem up. And the fact that it's the first line makes me, like, just gets me real deep in real quick, and I'm able to kind of like just grab onto this whole poem because that first line is my light switch. There's another poem that I'll do later that doesn't, my light switch doesn't happen until the end. So I read the first half, the first like 90% of the poem almost, just like kind of grasping, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. And then I read this one line, and then I read the title again, and I'm like, oh, and I go back and read the rest of it. Totally normal, like not normal, but like totally engaged with the poem because I get it right now. So like it doesn't always happen right away. This one, the screen door firecrackers closed. Yeah, this one happens right away. So this is long for this poem, just rambling. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you get the drink. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. I can keep rambling, but it's just going to be more of the same shit. So, all right, later.